since I've started doing comedy, I've become more of a fan of it, and I think I've gone a little bit deeper into it where now I can see below the level of, oh, he's funny. It's like, no, but there's more. Like, there's more happening with how a joke gets made and how a joke becomes funny, you know, and then how you perform it. And
the fact that a lot of people didn't get Bill Hicks and thought he was unfunny and thought that even, I remember there used to be this newspaper that would be distributed in the comedy clubs. This is, you know, early 90s newspaper. That would be distributed in the comedy clubs, and it was, I forget what it was called, but it had a name, and you would read it, and it had all the comedy news in there, what's happening in this club, and blah, 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 and who's on TV. And I remember they had an editorial about that Bill Hicks is going too far. It's
really?
Yeah. Oh, I remember thinking, like, in a comedy newspaper? Are you shitting me? And some guy talks about how he has a little girl, and if a little girl, so I'm like, you fucking, what is it about when people have kids, they turn into douchebags? What the fuck
it is
that?
a weird thing, because there's actually the documentary The People versus George Lucas, which is basically a movie kind of talking about George Lucas and what he's done to the Star Wars franchise, and the idea that like he and Steven Spielberg, like when they started to redo their movies, changed them digitally later after they had kids. As if it's like, oh, you know what, that Star Wars I made, I don't really know what I was thinking. That's really not good for kids, despite all the fact that all those kids liked it. No, we're gonna have Greedo shoot first now, or an E.T. where it's like, oh no, we'll have the FBI guys, they won't have their rifles anymore because that would be implying that they might shoot these kids. But that's the whole sense of danger of the world that those kids in E.T. are in, that they are running for their lives. Then they're like, oh no, too scary for kids. I mean, you know, do we really want to have law enforcement painted as bad guys who would shoot kids who have this multi-gajillion-dollar alien that we could use to make weapons and do all these other things? Like, no, they wouldn't use guns. I mean, because these are kids, really. I mean, but yeah, it's an idiotic concept. And there's one guy in the movie who says like, oh, what, like Martin Scorsese is going to go back. He's like, you know what, now I got kids, Goodfellas, you know, I'm going to take out 2 or 3 of those dead bodies. It's like, what are you doing? It's done. Leave it be. You know,
is there anything more fun than living in a childproof world?
We should have done away with corners years ago, really. So corners and edges have not brought anything good to anybody.
And the fact that people didn't like Bill Hicks and didn't get him, there were even some people inside comedy didn't get Bill Hicks and didn't like him, right? He wasn't universally liked in the comedy circles, you know? A lot of people thought he was, who the hell is that guy? If you're not making people laugh, you're not doing your job. That's what people would say.
Yeah, it's like,
people still say
what's
that.
with the ha-ha? Come on, bring the chuckles, come on.
If you're not making people laugh, and Bill Hicks would say, every once in a while, someone would yell at him, where's the joke? Where's the joke? And he would say, this is my stealth humor. It's very sophisticated, and your radar cannot detect it. And I just think of that all the time, and that's okay. Some people's radar aren't sophisticated enough to detect that humor, and that's their problem. They're the ones left behind. They're the mindless sheep. They're the people who don't get good things. They're the people who like Domino's Pizza and Madonna concerts. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's who those people are. And unfortunately, that's growing. That part of is growing and growing because of the oversaturation, I think, of media. That's my little analysis, but that's what makes it more fun. You know, when frat guys started listening to Kurt Cobain, it made it less fun.
Yes, it did. I agree with you.
You know, here was a guy who was tormented by those fucking guys his whole life, made music in response to it in a sense, and then they start to embrace it and don't even know where it comes from. And but Bill Hicks, I don't think he'll ever be embraced by the wrong people. You know what I mean? It's like even Sam Kinison, the wrong people embraced him, right? Because it's the style that they were embracing.
Yeah, they just like the yelling and the anger, the emotion. You didn't have to be smart to figure out the emotion that was coming out of him.
Yes, yeah. But Bill Hicks, you know what? You don't need to be smart to get him. You just need to be open.
I think that's exactly what it is.
You need to be open, and he'll fill your head with the right things.